Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today's guest is Paula Naeff. She is a leadership and performance coach and artist, a former dancer, climber, and credit manager. She is a mother of two gorgeous kids and co-parenting. She gently guides her high-achieving leader and busy parent clients toward high levels of clarity in the mind, body, and the soul, so they can truly access the innate wisdom and become better leaders, parents, humans, and have more moments of joy and life. Welcome, Paula. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Irina. That sounds so good when you say that. Even though, that's everything. Like, that's so much of what I do. It's not everything, but it's a lot.
Yeah. So, and you joining us from Switzerland, correct?
Yes, I live in Switzerland, but I am originally from Finland, so
Awesome. So please share with us, who is Paula in your own words?
Oh, she's a kind, laughter-loving mother who loves to make a good impact on everyone.
Very well said. I totally agree. How did you become a single parent? Was this a conscious decision, an accident? What happened?
Well, it's hard to say. I guess it was kind of a subconscious decision. After I was married for 10 years, and we have two kids. However, most of that time I was very depressed. I was depressed since the birth of my daughter, who's the younger one. And yes, I did. That was not good. And obviously it was not good for our relationship. And eventually it was in a place where I was still very depressed. But I noticed somehow there was something in me that said, look, this relationship is not going to help me out. Like this, if I stay, I will either be dead. I mean, there was no option. I would have died, really. And so there was no option. So it was not like I had decided today I will end our marriage. I just said I cannot do this anymore, and then that was the beginning of, well, that was the end, really, but the beginning of my new life. So that was really the beginning of my next chapter in a massive way, how I was able to get out of my depression and also just find, like, really authentically who I am and be able to live as me for the first time, like at least in my adult life, to live as me and to respect myself, my dreams, my everything that I am, without first thinking, well, what do the others want? What would they like to see in me? So yes, it was kind of a conscious but kind of an unconscious decision. I reacted, or I responded to that last time that there was a fight about whatever. That was always the same, where I felt so ridiculously small. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And either go out or really, like, end your life. Sorry, that was very blunt.
No, but that's what happened, and there is no, being sorry about it. It just is. And kudos to you, to realizing. And sometimes we stay stuck in those situations because we want to feel safe and secure. And even though the situation is not working for us, because our mind primary directive is to be safe, stepping into uncharted territory and doing something uncomfortable, even though it could be better for us, sometimes it's difficult. So kudos to you for taking that step and, figuring out what works and stepping onto the journey. What kind of, after you made that decision, were there any struggles that you faced becoming a single parent?
Oh, yes. Like big time. I think this is probably the same the same big time struggling, because yes, I did not go into a marriage and have 2 kids with the idea of not being together. So not having our family together in one place and spending the rest of my life with the person I thought was the one. And yeah, I didn't want to break or, bring our family apart. I didn't want to do that. So yes, for the first 3 months after that, I did not speak with anyone. I didn't speak, well, other than my ex-husband and my kids, but everyone else, like my family, my sister, my mom, my dad, I didn't even answer their messages. That was very hard. So it was because of guilt. I felt so guilty. And so I couldn't face them. I couldn't say. They obviously found out. I didn't tell them. But yeah, of course. So I didn't dare speak with anyone. But I did notice that I'm doing better because I'm able to spend time with myself. And that did good for me because I was not around that kind of toxic environment anymore. Even though I did miss my kids because I used to be home all the time, so I would see them every day. And now it was in 2 separate places, so I wouldn't be able to see them every day. However, that not seeing them every day gave me time. So in a lot of ways, yes, there was a lot of guilt and a lot of really negative feelings and stuff, but at the same time, I was kind of able to build like a foundation for me so that it didn't take very long to actually feel like, look, I'm not depressed anymore. And getting out of my medication, which then allowed me to continuously tell my kids, look, I'm doing so much better. Of course, they knew that I was not well and they were concerned. And yes, of course, they were asking why. And it's the hard one to hear. It's like, we'd like for you to be here. Like, let's be together again. And that's hard. But then I was telling them, look, I'm doing better. I can be a better mother. And we're all doing better, if not right then, but eventually. Because we're not in the same household anymore. And yes, we are. Now I can say that was 3 years ago. I mean, massive difference from where it was and where it is.
Yeah. And knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you give to that version of you 3 years ago?
I would probably just say, like, I would give advice. However, I don't know if she would have been able to take the advice, but just be like, just, find every day, find something that makes you joyful. And that even though it feels so hard, like, this is for your family, this is for your kids. You're not doing it for yourself. At least for me, if the only other option was to die, well, this is for my kids because then they have a mother. And just take it out of your own self. Like, it feels so hard to say because yes, of course, it was kind of like, yes, I'm thinking about myself, but in the same time, I didn't feel like I can think of myself. So if I take it out of myself, if I now knew these words, if I then knew these words that I'm saying now, I would say, look, just think of like where it's going and think of who you're doing it for. You're doing it for your kids. You're doing it for your family, because we're still a family. We're going to be a family forever in two households, but we are. And so that, take it away from you. It's not in that space. If you can, not make it about yourself. If that's easier to make progress, and if that's easier for you to then, okay, well, still through the guilt, still be in touch with people, communicate, be there, let them help you. Like, let them help. As for me, let them help. My sister, my mom, my dad, they would have loved to be there and be of any help that they could, even though they don't live here, they live in a different place, but still they could have been of help. And I didn't allow that to come into my world. I didn't allow that help to come in. So that probably would be another thing that I would just advise, like, look, don't, like, allow them to help.
Right. You're right. Because when we are on the other, when we are on the giving side of help, it's difficult for us to switch roles and let other people help us. We feel, we look at it as a sign of weakness. Like, I got myself into this mess. Let me get myself out of this mess. And
Exactly.
there are people who are ready and willing and able, but we always have to ask first. And that could be the difficult part before. Because if you don't say anything, nobody knows that something is wrong. Right?
Yes. And even then when they know, and if you're not communicating a lot, like I didn't even answer their text messages, nothing. And they would keep saying, oh, please reply. Like, and then I wouldn't say anything. And then they would go through my ex-husband to find out. And that, I felt like that was an injustice to them. Now, in that point, I didn't see it. I was like, so in my own little, like, world, and just surviving day by day until I started seeing more light. And then I opened up and started communicating again. And yeah, I think that did contribute then to me exponentially getting better, actually.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. How old were your kids when this happened?
So a daughter was 7, my son was 9.
And how did they take the separation?
Well, it's hard. They were asking a lot, like, why can't you stay here? Why can't you be in the house? And all this, and that they would wish that I would be there again. But especially with my son, it was easy. He used to always ask me, like, how am I? Because he's very sensitive, and he was always asking, well, am I like happy or am I sad? Like this. So I would tell him, like, look, I'm actually more happy now that we have this separation, and that I said things will always work out. And then, of course, for them, it's not an immediate. The result is not immediate, and that's, for kids, it is hard because you don't see, okay, well, I snap of my fingers and everything's fine, and it's not. And so they also go through the process, and yeah. But my intention, and that's the thing that I know you would be asking this in the end, but this is kind of tying to what advice I would ever give to anyone is to have the best intention. In whatever state you are when the separation happens, the best intention for where it's going to be in a couple of years or 10 years, whatever, the intention is important. And for me, the intention was always, from the beginning, even before this was a conscious thing, it was a subconscious decision for me to say, it's about peace and being friendly and having love everywhere, regardless. So it's about those 3 things and nothing else. So for me, that was the ultimate thing. Like, this is about the peace, the love, and the joy, the friendliness, kindness that exists in our family, regardless of our situation. And I have to say, now it's 3 years and we are in a place of peace and kindness and joy, and we've able to, I mean, it's not like, it's not like this perfect picture that we would never disagree, like my ex-husband and me. Of course we do, but the kids and we, as well as individuals, are so much better off. And that was the goal, and that's what I kept telling the kids as well. It's like, look, my intention, in not maybe not saying the word intention to them at that point, but saying, look, this is going to end up being so much better than it has been so far. And you will see. I mean, and it is. I love being a mother, which for the 7 years that I was depressed, most of the time I didn't. And that's horrible when you don't feel like you'd like to be where you are. You don't want to be who you are. And now it's completely different. So yes, that the whole always keep saying, look, this is where I want just things to be peaceful, kind, and loving. And that's it. And the kids will understand, like they will, in their own way. They might not understand in the same way that you do, but they get it. And then when they see you as a more calm, peaceful, loving, joyful, kind person, they see it, they feel it. They don't have to put it into any words, they feel it.
Yeah, you're so right. And intention is so important. Is what do we want to create in the end? I lacked clarity immediately after separation. I didn't know what next step to take, what would be best. I wish I had a time machine that I could go back in the future and see, okay, this was a good decision, or this was not so good decision. And I was defining what normal is, because everywhere I looked, I saw complete families of people, and at least on outside, everything looked happy. And there I was defining what normal is, because I was this weird outsider, a single parent, while everybody is still together. And I didn't know, yes, I did want, I wanted peace and happiness and joy. But other than that, I didn't really have like a clear picture of what is it going to look like, or what's going to happen. I didn't have that clarity. And oftentimes when you go through divorce, they constantly like pick on you and like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And you're in that weird state of mind, like it's depression or lack of clarity. You don't even know where you are, and you've been living for so long as someone else's spouse and someone else's parent. Who are you now? That like that loss of identity, that's what I've experienced as I was going through that process.
Yes, I can very much relate to that. And yeah, and now I know, because I coach people on clarity because I figured. And the reason behind that is because for me, throughout the whole depression and getting out of that, and then through the divorce and everything, clarity is at the core of everything. If you are able to in some way clear your mind and just see one step, because when we tend to think of like, even the question, what do you want? It's like, that's 110 steps from now. Yeah, you can know what you want eventually, but it's kind of like it's a vision. It's something bigger, and then it might not be something specific. And then when you think, if someone asks, what do you want? You think you have to have a specific big goal in mind. And that takes those 110 steps, and you would have to know each one of them. But that's not the case. You just need to have clarity within, so that you will find out through your innate wisdom, which you all have, which we all have, is what's the next step? What's that first step? That's all you need to know. Like, that's also like when people feel like they're clear, it's usually that first step. You don't know the next one, because you don't know what happens after you take the first one. So you can't really define the next step after, until the first step has been taken.
Yeah, definitely. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
There we go. It does.
Lao Tzu.
Yes, very wise.
What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
Believe in themselves.
Mhm.
Absolutely believe in themselves. And to that's it.
Yeah, I
If
think
that goes through all the stages of being a child and a teenager especially, then that's really good base.
yeah,
That's
you're
what
right.
I'm working on.
Me too. You're right, because after, if you have that, it's like the foundation, everything else can develop from that, like a fertile
Yes.
ground. But sometimes it's difficult to instill that. To although my son, like I've been saying it so long that when we're doing something, come on, you can do it, you can do it. If I
Mhm.
find myself in this state that like, oh, I'm tired or like everything is falling apart, he tells me, you can. You
There
know,
you go. It's coming back.
I believe in you.
Exactly.
What do you say is your superpower if you have to pick one?
I think it would be the skill of listening. I've learned to be a really good listener. And it's kind of something I love to listen to people. Maybe, well, I'm a coach, so I listen. It's like I'm right there doing what I love. And I love to listen to my kids. Is you learn so much, not necessarily so much through the words, that as well, but most of all you learn from just being there, holding your tongue and letting even the silent moments pass by, where the thinking happens and the discoveries, and where you get to observe someone's response to their own words. And it's just, that's when you learn so much. And especially with kids, and my daughter especially, they did this advent calendar for last Christmas in school.
Mhm.
And 24 little matchstick boxes with something in them, mostly like either like, oh, this is a gift certificate for a cup of coffee, I'll make you a cup of coffee or whatever. And then sometimes it was just like a little compliment or some little sentence or something. And in one of them she said, thank you for being such a good listener. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. Like she's 9 years old, and she was writing that, and she really appreciates that I listen and not interrupt, even if it's a little silent sometimes.
Mhm.
It's okay. And I believe that this me listening to them will also help them see the power of listening.
Yeah, very well said. And yeah, I think it's a great trait to have, to listen, because oftentimes we jump with our conclusions, our expectations, and life is so fast paced, and we don't give enough attention to just be there and listen, just be quiet in the moment and see what you
Exactly.
can uncover.
Yes.
If you could go back in time, would you do anything differently?
Well, being where I am now, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't done everything that I have done the way that I have done it.
Mhm.
Yes, there have been mistakes, and there, things that I could have been more aware of or just trusted myself more, whatever. But then again, that wouldn't be me now. I don't I don't advise anyone else to like go through depression, or if divorce is not necessary for continuation of life in the best possible way, well then, like, it's not, you don't have to take the same steps. But I'm grateful for every step that I've taken, and I wouldn't change anything, because where I am now is me, and I can live as the person that I was born to be, and I believe this is the path that I am supposed to be walking. And so, no, I wouldn't change anything, because it wouldn't be me.
Good point. What tools or what had helped you recover and from depression to be the person that you are today?
Yeah. Well, for me, what changed everything, it was first of all the being so brave to leave the marriage. That was life changing and life saving. And then I actually took a chance. Like, I didn't know too much about like Tony Robbins before. I thought, like, well, I'm from Europe, all right. So for me, this might sound a little silly to anyone in America, but it felt like, well, whatever I knew of him is like, well, it just gets these people all jumping up and down, and it's just kind of silly, right? So that's pretty much the, foundation of my knowledge. But in the after like half a year after I left my ex-husband, I was in Finland visiting my mother. I mean, I'd already had a lot of time by myself, and that helped. Like, really take yourself seriously as number one. You are the number one person in your life forever. And that it never does change. Even when you have a baby, you are still the number one, because the baby wouldn't even eat if it wasn't for you. So there we go. That's one thing, like, is giving attention to me, allowing that time for me to use that time when I didn't have the kids around to really work on me. And then comes Tony Robbins when I was in Finland by myself, without kids or anything. So, and my mom was there, and he was offering like this 5 day or something, like a free online. It was just in COVID, I think. Yeah, I was 21, I think, in January 21. So it was in the middle of the COVID thing. So everything online. And so I was like, oh, it's free. It happens quite late in the evening, my time. My mom's going to be asleep. I'm just by myself. So I was like, who cares? I'm going to go for this. I'm going to show up every time. I'm just going to do everything, because like, nobody's here to watch me. Nobody's here to judge me. I can jump up and down. So let's try. So I went and I did that program, and it really, like, this is like a commercial for that, but it really changed my life. I'm not working for Tony Robbins, and yeah, so but it did. And the one word of that program that changed my life was responsibility. When I heard that word, and I had heard that word so many times along the many years of having a lot of therapy, and I have been to many, many clinics, or many times to the same clinic for my depression. I've had everything, all everything that you can imagine, like even electroshock therapy. I had. It didn't help. And every time during those times that somebody said, you're responsible for your own self, like, I'm responsible for me. I'm responsible for my thoughts, my actions, whatever. It would come like someone was hammering me on the head, like blaming me. You are to be blamed for your depression, for your kids doing this, for your husband doing that, for everything. It was a word changed in my mind to blame. And then in that Tony Robbins 5 days, at some point, he was talking about how having responsibility for your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. And it opened up to me like completely different. All of a sudden, I saw that word as opportunity. Like, that responsibility changed into, well, then, if that's my responsibility, then I can change everything. Then I get to choose what I think, and I get to choose how I feel, or how I react or respond or act or don't respond. Whatever, it's my decision. And so it was like really, really eye-opening. It's like, wow, oh, I have all this power. And so that was beautiful. Like that really, I can pinpoint a moment when that happened.
That could be eye-opening, a simple reframe of how what that word means. And you're so right, I think. When we are in a depressive state of mind, we think everything is a blame instead of
Mhm.
thinking it as an opportunity. It's for us to choose something differently. And sometimes something, like you said, could be said a million different times. And it takes one person to come and said it maybe for a million one time. And finally you hear it and finally you make something about it. And finally kind of it thinks through and causes a breakthrough, causes a change in how you see and how you think. And awesome.
Yes. Yeah, that was great. That changed so much, like everything. So that was really powerful. I'm so grateful for having been there and being and grateful for me for saying, look, I don't care. I'm gonna play full out. I'm doing this and not caring because then it was like, well, what do I have to care about? Like there's nobody at like what it was like from 9 or 10 p.m. Like it started really late. So I was like, see, I'm gonna jump up and down in the kitchen where I was sitting and doing this. I didn't care. And that's kind of the thing where I also go back to whenever things are hard or I feel like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, look, check out the situation. First of all, even if people did see me jumping up and down, who cares? Hopefully they jump too. And then the second thing is like, well, who's gonna even watch? Like here, I live in this, it's an apartment, it's the top floor, it's only 2 floors, but it's the top floor of two. And across from me, there are 2 apartments at the same level, pretty much. And they always have their curtains drawn. I don't ever. And I'm like, I'm not gonna draw my curtains because I have a beautiful view. And besides, first of all, they have their curtains drawn all the time, so they never even watch. And even if they did, I'm like, maybe I can make a good influence and an impact on them. They'd be like, what is that crazy lady doing? And that's me jumping up and down. So I keep jumping.
I think we're so self-conscious. We think people are always like looking at us and like, what are they gonna think? What are they gonna say? Meanwhile, people are so self-centered. They maybe think about you for 1 second and then they go back to thinking about themselves. And then we
Exactly.
create a whole world based on who is gonna say what and how they're gonna think and how they're gonna behave. And then we change our behavior. Meanwhile, they probably forgotten who you are in the next 5 seconds because they have their
Exactly.
own drama to unfold.
Exactly. They're not like my neighbors are not there with, their binoculars and looking at I mean, and if they were, well, then go ahead and have fun. But, they're not, they don't care. They don't care about like me. And that's what I always keep going back, like, look, and if I've done it once that I gave my all and it had such an impact in my life, well, the next time I will give my all because I want to keep getting an impact, even if it wasn't at such massive impact like it was that time. But if I don't give my all, I don't even have a chance.
And it was your first step before you saw the rest of the staircase.
Yes, exactly. And I have to say, the other thing that really helped me after that is I hired a coach. I never worked with a coach. I never even considered that. Like, well, no, I did consider like 15 years ago. That was my dream of becoming a coach. I was thinking, oh, that would be great. But then, like, working, I thought this, like, my idea was, well, it's either, they work in corporations and I don't know, whatever they do. But I was like, I got in touch. That was the time when, what was it called? This platform where you just talked. I don't remember what it was called anyway, but there was this platform where everyone goes and it was just rooms where people talk. And I was there. And that really, like, I got in touch with the first time with people who were in that kind of coaching and life changing, life development kind of atmosphere. It was completely new. So that's where I met my first coach. And that, I have to say, has made a massive impact. Like within a couple of years for me from then to be running my own business and being a coach myself would not ever have happened had I not had a coach. Like how she was able to help me open, she didn't open my eyes. I opened my eyes with her help.
She was your guide, guiding
Yes,
you along to uncover the truth about you that you didn't know you had. Take off the
exactly.
blinders so that you can see how amazing you are and that you have all the resources that you need. And sometimes we need that external person to kind of show us the way, to show us what's possible, because when we live a life, we always kind of in this one lane. I can
Mm-hmm.
give a simple example. I've been living in this area for 14 years, and I only discovered the beach that's 10 minutes from me during pandemic. And so in the last, I mean, 4 years, 3 years, but
What?
I mean, I knew it was there, but I would never go there. It's because we have this routine that we have, you go to work, you come home, you go to school, you drop off the kids, and you live in that kind of circuit level of life that you only go to familiar things and do familiar places. And sometimes something could be, I don't know, 1 degree to the side, and you're not even going to notice it unless there is an opportunity or something happened for you to go there, or
Mm-hmm.
having a coach who kind of can show, oh, this is available. I didn't even know it was there.
Exactly. Helps you see things from a different angle.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you happy?
Oh, a lot of things. Um, well, first of all, just hang out with my kids. I really like that. Um, that's just like, and I especially enjoy that so much because for so many years I wasn't able to enjoy. And now I'm so grateful that this all has happened because I'm able to really enjoy that. I love being with them. I love just doing silly things. Like I love laughing and I love making people laugh. So I love silliness. So just playful and being outside with my dog. Like I'm grateful for her that she takes me out 3 times a day. that's that's beautiful. I can be anywhere we go. Like what makes me happy is also seeing a positive impact that I can have on other people's lives. Like through my kids or people around me, the clients that I get to work with, it really it gives me goosebumps when somebody has a beautiful breakthrough or insight, however small or big it is. And just having this and knowing that that has made that person's life better. And that's just like those things make me happy. Just having a positive impact, joyful, making someone smile. Like even, yes, I was talking about the jumping and stuff. And well, if that makes my neighbor smile, well then, great. Please, I'll keep on jumping if that's the effect.
Very well said. Thank you. Thank you. What kind of advice would you give to single parents stepping onto the single parenting journey? I know you mentioned before the intention is so important, but any other advice that you can share?
I would say start from the inside, like whatever it is, and then however big and difficult any decisions and steps seem to be, always look for what feels good for you on the inside first. Even if it's to do with the kids, even if it's to do with, I don't know, whoever else, but you first. Like take you first and take that seriously. Not seriously that you would like lose all joy, but seriously yourself. Like this is your life. and that you are number one in your life. Even if you have 10,000 kids, you're still number one. Even if you have one kid and you think that's all, no, you are number one. Because what would that child do if you weren't the best possible person that you can be? Or if you weren't alive, like in my case, it was close, but what would they do? Nothing. Like that would be miserable. So yes, number one is you. So whatever it comes, like there are going to be things, especially if you go through a divorce process or anything, even if it's not like, even if it wasn't a registered marriage and you don't go through that process, but it's still a process of a lot of organization, a lot of listening and being present, and a lot of times you feel like you're being pulled apart, and still hold on to something that where you just pay attention to you. That will be your anchor. That will be help you in anything, because that will keep you grounded in some way, at least for one tiny moment of a day. You can feel like, all right, I'm with me. And that will create clarity in enormous ways for anything that happens on the outside, all those circumstances and things that sometimes seem so crazy and overwhelming. But if you can have that one little anchor, whatever it is, that do it and keep it, it's more important than anything.
I think you're so right. And this is where I found myself after being also in a depressive state of mind and coming to the conclusion that I could no longer live like that. And I gotta change something. I gotta get more energy, so I'm happy, because if I'm not happy, then my kids are not happy. If I didn't take care of me, then what kind of person shows up for them? So totally relate to you, and I think it is very important. It's not selfish, it's actually selfless to take care of ourselves so that we can then show better version to others. If we keep ourselves, our mind, our body, our spirit, our soul alive, and be present to life, as opposed to swimming in the current wherever life pushes us, being the actually conscious creator and having the habits in your life that sustain you, that allow you to have enough energy, allow you to have clarity of mind, and being there for others. So totally agree with you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
No, I think you've asked quite good questions. It has been a journey, and I do notice as well, like a lot of time they are just emotional situations, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to share some parts of the story without the tears flowing. They will come, because at some point it still hurts. And then when I notice that, I learn every time. I learn about myself, and why do I react like that? And then also I give myself grace, because look, it's only been 3 years. It's not 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever, it's 3. And that's not a very long time. And that has been a massive change in those 3 years. And I'm very grateful and happy that that's the case. However, certain parts, yes, they do need much more time. And it's a journey. Next time I talk about it, I don't know, the reaction might be the same, might be different. I don't know.
You're right. I was the same way. I couldn't, when I was sharing my story, I would break down and cry. But now it's been more, almost nine years it's been. So I can now talk about it without breaking down. I feel sad, but I can carry on the conversation. So you're on your way. And you have done so much work on yourself, and taking those steps, taking the action, being brave enough to pursue something that was scary, but realizing that however you were living wasn't working, and you needed to make that change, you needed to make that scary decision. But look how far you've come in just this short 3 years. the person that you are today, that you're able to coach others, that you're able to hold space for them because you were overcome your own depression, overcome your own pain, and create something beautiful from that. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your wisdom and your story. I really love having you, and I think I can talk to you for hours.
Yes, I know. I feel the same. Thank you so much, Irina, for having me here.
Thank you.